Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is Mr. Pruitt, Zoe's dad. That's the name of the channel. And happy to be back with you today. It's a beautiful day in Florida. Sun's shining. It's a little chilly this morning, but it always warms up. That's why I'm in Florida. Grew up shoveling snow. And I remember getting up.
Good morning, Party Interruption. Can we get a custodian to the front office bathroom? We need a custodian immediately to the front office bathroom, please.
So obviously I'm at school, constant announcement, so sorry about that. Anyway, I was going to tell you something about growing up, but I don't think I'll do that. I want to get straight to the point. Today, we're going to talk about 3 things needed to enter the man club, okay? So in a lot of different cultures, in a lot of different places all around the world, it used to be in times past that when you wanted to consider yourself a man or be considered a man by others, you would have to go through something to be initiated into the family or the society of men, the man club. So Native American tradition, one of the traditions was to leave a young man out in the woods by himself for some period of time and see how he fares. And other traditions, I know an African tradition, I don't know where in Africa, I think there are 54 countries in Africa, so it gets confusing. But in one of those countries in Africa, they go up on this big old, 5-story, 6-story tower, really high. They tie a vine to their leg, and they measure the vine just so, and then the young man jumps off, and the vine is measured so precisely that they stop. They dive headfirst down, and they stop like 6 inches or a few inches before their head hits the ground. Because the rope is measured so specifically. And that's part of an initiation. In South America, in one of those countries in South America, they fill 2 mitts. They make mitts out of leaves, and then they fill these mitts with ants, bullet ants, yeah. And then the person who's being initiated into the society of men in that village or in that town, in that place, they have to put their hands in these mitts. And these bullet ants just destroy their hands. And they have to tolerate the pain and just not yank their hands out of the mitts and for a certain period of time. So the African one I just described is a test of courage. The South American ritual with the mitts I just described is a test of, maybe commitment, your ability to endure pain without quitting, which is huge when it comes to being a man, being able to endure pain without quitting, because there are going to be a lot of times when you want to quit and you cannot because you're a man, and we don't get to do that. And then what else did I describe? The Native American one, that's a test of courage. It's a test of being able to endure without quitting, without walking out of the woods and going back to your village. It's a test of resourcefulness to see, if you can survive out there for a certain amount of time. So guys had to go through some type of, but now in our culture in North America, you just turn 18, and because you had a birthday, you're a man, which is ridiculous to me. How you a man just because you had a birthday? So yeah, there needs to be some proof. So here are three things that I think need to be required of a young boy before they are considered to be a man. And I might say, in these places that I've just described to you, in these situations, if the boy did not pass the test, they would still be considered a boy until they passed that test. They would not be welcomed into the fellowship or the society of men. And everybody in their village and all around would look at them as a boy. And it would be quite embarrassing. quite a stigma attached to being a certain age and still being a boy. So here are the three things I believe in our North American society. As a minimum, we need to require. It's what I require from my son, and it's what I think we all should require of ourselves and all young men in our North American society. Number one, you need to be feeding yourself. You need to be buying your own food and feeding yourself. If you are not buying your own food and someone else is feeding you, you're a boy. Well, I'm going to clarify that. Don't get mad yet, okay? You need to be voluntarily, or you need to be feeding yourself if you're able. If you're disabled, obviously, you can't go out and get a job and feed yourself. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you should be feeding yourself if you're able, if you're mentally and physically able to feed yourself. Number two, you should be clothing yourself. You should be buying your own clothes. Now, I never buy any of my clothes. I didn't buy this T-shirt. I didn't buy this vest. I didn't buy my pants. My wife buys all that, but she uses my money. When I first met her, when I was 20 years old, 19 years old, she said I didn't know how to dress very well. She took me out shopping. I gave her my credit card. She bought all my clothes. She's been buying my clothes for 40 years almost, 37 years. But I'm buying them. It's my money. If somebody else's money is buying my clothes, that's a problem. All right. If I want to be considered a man, I need to be I need to be at least clothing myself. What you talking about? You're a man, but you don't feed yourself and you don't clothe yourself? Sounds like a boy to me. So you need to feed yourself. You need to clothe yourself. You need to put a roof over your own head. These are the three. Feed yourself, clothe yourself, put a roof over your own head. When I was 17 years old, I went into the military, world's finest Navy, when I was 17. So I was living on base while I was in boot camp, while I was in A school, C school, and even after school, I was still living on base. But the military was not putting a roof over my head. I was working every day. I was getting up at 5 a.m. every day, taking my behind to work and working, and I was going to work, and that was putting a roof over my head. So even if I was staying on base in the military barracks, and it's their barracks, I was still the one going to work, putting a roof over my head. All right? When you staying somewhere for free and somebody just allowing you to stay somewhere under their roof for free, that's a problem. All right? So three things. Now, you need to feed yourself, you need to clothe yourself, and you need to put a roof over your own head if you are able. Obviously, if you're incarcerated, you're not able. Obviously, if you have a mental or physical disability, you're not able. But if you're able, there's no excuse. And if you're able to do this and you're not doing it, I don't see how you can consider yourself a man. I just don't. You might call yourself a man, and maybe you are physically, but definitely only physically. And lastly, not only do you need to be doing this for yourself, but you need to be doing this for everybody for whom you are responsible. So if you have a child or two children or a wife, you need to be clothing them, you need to be feeding them, you need to be putting a roof over their head. It's okay to partner with your spouse to do this, but you need to be contributing significantly to feeding, clothing, and putting a roof over the heads of those people for whom you are responsible. My wife makes way more than I do. Okay, so, and we pay bills together. So it's not just me feeding my kids, clothing my kids, putting a roof over their head, just me, but we do it together, and that's totally acceptable. What's not acceptable is having your woman do it and you make up 100 excuses why you're not contributing the way you're supposed to be contributing. All right, so that's all I got. If you want to consider yourself a man, are you feeding yourself and those who you're responsible for? Are you clothing yourself and those who you're responsible for? Are you putting a roof over your head and over the head of those that you're responsible for? Those are minimum qualifications for the man club. If you are working on them and you're not exactly there yet, Don't consider yourself a man. Work on that. When you get that, then you're good. All right. So my son lives with me, by the way, and he pays rent. So he's putting a roof over his own head. Do you get the point? Okay. I'm done. All right. Love you guys. See you on the next video.